Going over the solutions, you have to use inverse operations for the first three to solve for x. So in this case, you would first for number one, you would have to subtract 13 from both sides, and you end up with 5x is equal to 35. Divide both sides by 5, you end up with 7. For number two, you add 8 to both sides, so you end up with 1/3 x is equal to 8. Multiply both sides by 3, you end up with 24. For going over number three, you would add 4 to both sides. You end up with negative 9x is equal to 4. Divide both sides by negative 9, and you end up with negative 4 over 9. It doesn't simplify, so you just leave it just like that, negative 9 over 4. For number 4, you factor this as the difference of two squares. Something that is a square of 16 would be 4. Then you factor each one. You set each factor equal to 0, and you end up with x minus 4 is equal to 0, x plus 4 is equal to 0, which if you solve each individual one, you end up with positive 4 for one solution and negative 4 for the other solution. For number 5, you factor this using either the box or the diamond method. Either way, you end up with a set of parentheses as x plus 3, x plus 1. Then you go ahead and solve each separate one equal to 0, and you end up with x equal to negative 3 as one solution on this side, and then x equal to negative 1 as one solution over here on this side. For number 6, the same thing, you factor it using the diamond or the box, whatever method you prefer. One of the factors is going to be x minus 3. The other factor is going to be x minus 2 equal to 0. Set each factor equal to 0, and then you end up with two separate solutions, 3 and positive 2. For 7, 8, and 9, these are already factored out, so you just basically solve each separate one. So one of these is going to be x is equal to negative 8 from this factor, and this is going to be x equal to negative 11 from this factor on this side. Number 8 is kind of the same thing. Each one's already factored, so you just solve each one. You can solve these pretty quickly in your head. X is equal to 5, x is equal to 7. And then number 9, you have to kind of solve each separate one. And this is what you end up getting. In this case, they simplify, so you end up with x is equal to 6, and then x is equal to 2 for the other factor. For these ones, you have to do long division, so you multiply 2x by x squared to match it up with 2x to the third. When you multiply, you distribute, then you would have to subtract. When you subtract, you would end up having to cancel this off, and then this negative turns into a positive. So it turns out to be plus x squared plus the 15 that's already there gives you 16x squared. Bring down the next term, and then divide 16x squared by 2x squared. It would be 8x. Then you multiply 8x times this, 8x times negative 1. Then you would have to subtract. Subtract means that this would cancel out, the 16x squared. This negative distributes, so now it's going to be positive plus 8x. So negative 34 plus 8x gives you negative 26x. Bring down the 13, and then divide negative 26x by 2x. You end up with negative 13. Then negative 13, when you distribute to these two terms, this is what you end up getting. Then you would have to subtract. And because these two terms are exactly the same, this becomes 0, and this also, when you distribute this negative, would become negative 13. So positive 13, negative 13 also becomes 0. So you have no remainder in this example, or this problem. So next we're going to go ahead and write our answer as a multiplication statement. So we're going to take what we were dividing by inside the little division bar, and we're going to write it as a multiplication statement. So this is saying that if you take this, it's the same thing as dividing or multiplying 2x minus 1 times our quotient, which is x squared plus 8x minus 13. Going through the next part, you're looking for what multiplies x by to get x to the third, so it's x to the second, and then you just go ahead and distribute. So it's kind of the same process, distribute, then subtract. When you subtract, this changes to a negative. When you distribute the negative into the 4x, subtracting these two gives you a 9x squared. Bring down the next term, and then from there it's just kind of repeating the process. 9x squared divided by x gives you a 9x. Distribute the 9x to this, 9x to this, and this is your expression. Then you go ahead and subtract this, and then kind of repeat the process. So in this example, you will have, or this problem, you will have a remainder because you have negative 25 and 40. So you end up with a remainder of 15. And so when you write your remainder, it's going to be your remainder over what you divided by. So it's going to be a 15 over x plus 4, what you write your remainder over here on the side. And then next, we'll go ahead and write our multiplication statement. And this shouldn't say 216x. That was just a little typo or a little line that I had, but it's supposed to be 26x. So it's what you're dividing by, what you're dividing, and then it's going to be equal to what you divided by, x plus 4, and then what's on top of the quotient, which is this, which is the same thing up on top. That's our multiplication statement. All right, and then just one more to go for this particular section.